wonderful person that I know into the studio that I met all of 30 seconds ago. But you know what? Stacey, I want to welcome you. Before we get into who you are, it's scrolling across the bottom there, everybody. But before we get into who you are and what you do, Stacey, I will start the interview with a question that I ask everybody. And the question of this week was, if you could only eat one sandwich for the rest of your life and not any other sandwiches, what sandwich would it be?
Turkey sandwich.
Turkey. Why turkey?
I like it.
And what's on it? What's on it?
Very plain, like lettuce, tomato. That's about it. So
no mustard,
anything too spicy bothers my stomach. So turkey's nice and bland. So
okay. Now, Stacey's an author. The reason I asked that question is just to break the ice, right? We're just two people talking about what you do. You're an author. So where does we'll start off, we'll jump right into the deep end. We're probably going to go anywhere between 10 and 15 minutes, just so you know. But into the deep end, where do you get your ideas from? Where do your babies in those books come from?
Basically, they just from whatever I'm interested in at the time, or sometimes they're inspired by jobs I've had or places I've gone. So, for example, my mystery novel, 25 Years Ago Today, it's about an O-boat writer who stumbles across a 25-year-old murder while researching a 25 Years Ago Today column on the microfilm. And I actually had that job. I was a newspaper reporter for several years, but I started out as an O-boat writer. And one of my jobs was doing the 25 and 50 Years Ago Today column. And I was always finding kind of boring things. I had to come up with happy reminders and things that people would want to read about years later, like a nice memory. And it just occurred to me, like, what if someone who had this job came across an old murder, a cold case, and felt driven to solve it. I also write a Storybook Valley romantic comedy series, which is set at a fairy tale theme park in the Catskills in New York. And I got that idea when visiting a theme park with my family. I'm a big Disney fan. Got engaged at Epcot and went to Disneyland Paris on my honeymoon. So the theme parks is something that makes me happy, and it was fun to write about. And the first book was called Fooling Around with Cinderella. And I got that idea. Actually, we were at a theme park with our kids, and we had just gone to see Cinderella, and there was this huge line, and Cinderella was very patient and sweet and nice with all the kids and everything. And I thought, well, what if there was a Cinderella who didn't want to have that job and she got roped into that job for some reason? And so I thought that would make a fun comedy novel. So basically whatever I'm interested in at that time, or sometimes something will just strike me like a bolt of lightning, and then I can't get it out of my head and have to write it.
That's awesome. I love that. Ladies and gentlemen, I didn't get to do my research again. It's my day off. Take it. So, Stacey, when you're actually writing, we talked about the inspiration, but the characters. I talked to a lot of authors where the characters almost become like a second personality within the person, and they won't let the author do certain things. Does that happen to you? Like, do they say no to you sometimes?
Yeah, definitely. I know that sounds a little weird, but yeah, they start to take over. Like I always start with an outline, so I have an idea where the story's going to go. But if it's sometimes when I'm writing, they'll just kind of deviate from that outline. I'll write a scene, and I'll be kind of like, well, where did that come from? Or I didn't expect the character to say that. But that's how you know that the story is just coming alive, and so that's a good sign. But
that's awesome. Where it becomes real, right?
Right.
How does it feel to have something like that go into the world as an author? A lot of people don't get a creative outlet. They're stuck within themselves. They're not allowed to push that portion of their personality out there. How does it actually feel to have your book babies go into the world?
Oh, it feels great. I think part of it is because I'm very introverted. And when I started writing when I was a child, and I was very, just very shy. And so people were always surprised when they read my stories. I was writing about mysteries, and then more recently writing romantic comedies, like sassy chick lit. And you wouldn't necessarily know I had that humorous voice, or the kind of adventurous women sleuth kind of side of me. When I was in high school, I wrote a hockey novel. which I published a sequel a couple of years ago, so that's still out there, and so it just kind of reveals all different sides of me, and it's just nice to kind of it's a great way to express myself and write about things I'm interested in while also entertaining others and giving them a form of escape. Reading has always been a great form of escape for me, so it's just an honor to be able to have people read my books. Although it's also nerve-wracking, when checking reviews or when you first publish a book, seeing the reception it's going to get, or having family members and friends read it. It's always that little, scary aspect of what are other people going to think. But then once you start to get that positive feedback and positive reinforcement, then it's exciting.
That makes sense. Before the interview, we talked about the whole Kindle publishing stuff and the world that it's opened up. Do you feel, as an author, that the younger generation is as interested in books as, I'm not sure how old you are, I'm 35, but my generation was very interested in books because it's really all we had, right? Do you feel the younger generation is the same thing?
I feel like it's more, there's some that are, like, I know some young people and they're very interested in books, but then there's just, it seems like it's harder to get as many interested because they're so distracted by technology and social media. So I think it's more of a challenge. And but I think having like Kindle is great because that gives them another option, another way they can take a break from their games or their apps and read a book. Audiobooks like Audible, that's a great alternative also. But yeah, I think there's always going to be people, the kids that just love to read and are drawn to books. But for the parents who are trying to get the kids who are more reluctant readers to read, it can be more of a challenge. Because they just have so many distractions. So it's important to try to steer them toward books that they might be interested in.
Yeah, that makes sense. I talked to a comic book author a couple weeks ago, and he told me that, and it's true, it's nice to have a book in your hands versus a screen in your hands. And I think that there's something lost in the tactile feel. And if you've ever been in a library and you went to the back end, and some of those books are pretty stinky, but that smell sometimes adds to the experience of this is a real emotional thing for a person. When you are writing, are you ever trying to find a cause within your writing? For instance, you talked about the hockey book and you've talked about the book with Cinderella. Is there any underlying messages that you ever try to get across? Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. Like they all have a theme or character arc. So my hockey books, my first one, Face Off, is about twin brothers who don't get along, and they play in the same ice hockey team, and they're competing to be captain. So that's a story about sibling rivalry and sportsmanship and overcoming your differences. The sequel, Offsides, it takes place a year later, and they're seniors in high school, and they starting to explore the route to college hockey, like playing junior hockey, and just the kind of that transition of the unknown and separating from your parents and going out on your own. So it's a lot about independence and just having the courage to follow your goals. And so they all have some kind of theme or message.
That makes sense. It's good when authors actually write about something to help the world, because that's what books can really help us do, right? Back in the days of book burnings, there was a lot of information lost in that, and I think if those people read the books, maybe they wouldn't have burnt the books in the first place. Sorry for taking a dark turn there. Where can people find you and all that stuff? I know it's scrolling across the bottom, but where can people actually find you if they're listening?
So for readers, I have my main website, stacyjuba.com. So that has links to all my books, my book blurbs. I have a blog on that site also. And then I'm also a freelance developmental editor, and I teach online courses for writers, including a course that I launched this year called Book Editing Blueprint, which teaches authors about self-editing. So writers can find me at shortcutsforwriters.com. And then I have a free Facebook group and a free 5-day line editing class. So if they go to shortcutsforwriters.com, they'll find the links to all of those. And then I also have a blog on that site and a YouTube channel. So the YouTube channel, I do both like writing tips, and then I also do my trailers for my books, kind of behind the scenes for my books. So it's sort of a mix. Some of the videos are geared to readers and some toward writers. So.
Awesome. Now, the question that people ask is, so what is a day in the life of a modern writer like, right? You're not the Hemingway or something like that. What's a modern writer? What's your life like?
Well, I have 2 kids, and it's kind of changed recently with the pandemic. But normally I would write or work in the morning and afternoon, like while they're in school. And it kind of varies depending what project I'm working on. Like sometimes it's I'm between books right now, but if I was working on a novel, I'd write for kind of work on that for maybe 2 or 3 hours, and then I'd work on editing a client's manuscript or something to or work on classes that I'm developing and that kind of thing. Social media, there's a lot of marketing and book promotion. And then right now I'm working more on like my courses. So I'm kind of focusing on that for the summer, just developing new courses and getting the word out about that. So it's a lot of outreach, connecting to new people on Facebook and
doing this.
Yeah, that kind of thing. I bring in guest speakers to my Facebook group for writers. There's just a lot of networking and answering questions from writers in my Facebook group. So it just kind of varies depending on what project I'm working on. But there's generally a few hours during the day when I'm working on, whatever the big project is, whether it's a book or a course. And then there'll be a couple hours of, scheduling Instagram posts or blog posts or working on videos and that kind of thing.
That makes sense. Well, we've reached the end of the interview. Pretty quick, pretty easy, right? And thank you for being a pro. Before we end off, once more, I'm assuming everybody can buy your books on Amazon and Kindle and all over the place, right?
Yeah.
So everybody who's watching, the one person watching, hit the like button right now. Hit share too. Sorry for being weird. So people can go on Amazon, buy the books on Kindle and stuff like that. Some bookstores, I'm assuming, would also carry, depending. What the hell was my last question? Sorry for going off. What's one thing you've done today? We're all locked up in this crazy world that we're in right now, most places anyway. What's one thing you've done for yourself, not for anybody else, to make yourself happy today? And you can't say this interview.
Well, I haven't done it yet, but I plan to do yoga later this afternoon.
That works. It's still early morning there, right? It's like 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, something like that. So yeah. I want to thank you, Stacey, for coming on. It was fantastic to meet you. And anytime you want to come back, I would love to have you. We end this way. I just need you to say bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.